Now, on the issue of child abuse and the Magdalene Laundries, both issues, I understand from your reply that I asked about prosecution following the Ryan Commission report. And I understand from your reply that 11 cases were turned over to prosecutors. 8 of them have been rejected so far, and the other 3 are still in progress. Can you tell us what is the basis for the rejection of those that have been rejected so far? Because the percentage is not too good at present. Now, I wanted to turn to this issue of the Magdalene Laundries. First of all, the head of the delegation told us yesterday that this all took place a long time ago. And I wanted to emphasize the fact that this committee has addressed such issues many times for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that we are concerned about preventing recurrences. And the convention calls for preventive measures. Article 10, educating and informing police and other personnel. Article 12, proceeding to an investigation. 13, the encouraging and ensuring the individual's right to complain. And Article 14, as Madam Cleopas said, making sure that the victim of an act of torture obtains redress. It doesn't say seeks redress, it says obtains redress. So for all those reasons, we're concerned about these people. They're alive, they have continuing effects, there are issues that matter. We have done this in the case of Japan, we have done this in the case of Algeria, we've done it in the case of Cyprus, in the case of schools in Canada. We've raised these issues before. So from our point of view, it's nothing new. On your response, you said that the vast majority of persons who were sent to the Magdalene Laundries, quote, went there voluntarily, or if they were minors, with the consent of their parents and guardians, unquote. Now, I really want to get to this question of what is voluntary. I think voluntary means that one makes a choice. I think that voluntary means that one is informed. I think that voluntary means that one is then free to leave. I think it means that there is nothing coercive in this context. And I'm like to ask you if you have any information to suggest that the vast majority of persons who went to these laundries were aware of the conditions, were aware of the procedure for withdrawing or leaving, if they made a choice, if they were given information by the laundries, or in the cases where the few cases where the individuals were actually sent there as an alternative sentence from the courts, again, did they receive relevant information in that instance? Now, as to the question, many of them were minors with the consent of their parents and guardians. What happened at the point when they reached a majority, when they became 18 or 21, if that was the age of majority? Was there a procedure in any fashion? Otherwise, we have a situation where it seems like there was not only a lack of question about consent, but also a situation where there may have appeared to have been restraint on people's freedom of movement. We had testimony about locked doors and people being captured by the police and returned to the institution, so there's state involvement as well. There were physical barriers, and there seemed to have been an intent to confine people, and it seems that people who were confined feel that they were, as you indicated, harmed by it. So my question is also, what measures were taken, can you give us any example of measures that we call due diligence, which you so clearly recognize in your laws on domestic violence, in the FGM bill, which says there cannot be an appeal or a claim of consent. You just spoke about that earlier, or elsewhere. Can you identify to us any example of efforts by the state authorities to inspect or regulate these facilities? Were they exempt from standards? And can you tell us what measures were taken to ensure that there were no acts or omissions that amount to torture? At the very beginning, in response to our question, Mr. Bruni and I asked about the definition and the use of the term act or omission. You said that an omission is a failure to take action by broadening the definition to include omissions so that a wider number of possible scenarios are covered. For example, the act of torture may also arise from an act of omission and not only a positive act. So this definition appears to include the willful failure to inspect a place or to regulate a place where acts of torture or cruel, inhuman treatment occur. Wouldn't this apply to the Magdalene Laundries? And do you foresee that as something that might be addressed in the coming weeks? You said that you can't anticipate when there'll be a decision, but it might be in a matter of weeks. So I'd appreciate any clarification on those matters you can provide us. Thank you.
Thank you.